Hey, what is going on, everybody? It's Thursday at 6 p.m. My name is Paul Spencer. That, of course, is Dan Connor. You are checked into the Out of the Box Sports Weekly Football Talk. Dan, first of all, how you feeling on this? I don't know what you got. I got a lot of rain in my area, brother.
Pretty good, pretty good. It's rained pretty much all week here. Had a howling wind last night, rain today. Actually, the sun came out a little bit, so it's been under 50 all week so far. But
Yeah, I'm getting rain the next 4 days up here. It's like I live high on the mountain, but down there where they had the flood in Johnstown many years ago, they had like a flood warning today. So I'm staying up above ground, up on the mountain today. But hey, man, listen. Today we're going to be talking about the AFC North this week, Dan. I mean, we've covered a lot of divisions so far. We're moving on to this division. Dan, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, this is my opinion here, but this is probably the best division in football when it's really said and done. What do you think?
I was going to say that everyone was over 500. You know, everybody was over. Even the Bengals ended up being over 500. Even though Burrow didn't play a lot.
Right.
I mean, he's hurt a good amount of the season. They weren't healthy. He didn't have a very good year, but they still went 9-8. So
Yeah, I mean,
everyone else made the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, we look at, a down year. Of course, the Bengals, 2 years in a row moved from the Super Bowl. Of course, Burrows, can he stay healthy? Can they protect him? He didn't play half the year last year, and they were still, like you said, 9-8. I mean, they're above 500. Yeah. And, we always still, ever since Roethlisberger left, is what's the Steelers anymore? We know what the Ravens are, of course, with Lamar Jackson. Cleveland's always had a great defense, ever since they moved on from Deshaun Watson here. It's a little bit different, how they're playing out. But we don't really know. I mean, this division to me is probably the best in football right now, from 1 to 4 in seedings, Dan, honestly.
Yeah, I think so. And if the Bengals stay healthier,
Mm-hmm.
even though they've had some changes here, I think they can have a better season than they had last season.
I do. I mean, let's talk about.
I thought they'd be better than 9-8.
Yeah. Well, before we get into we'll break down this year, of course.
Yeah,
let's talk about last year real quick. Let's grade the teams from, we'll start from the bottom to the top. Let's talk about those Cincinnati Bengals, coming off the Burrow injury, of course, again. How do you grade that last year? I understand, we always talk about the quarterback, the franchise player. You got to keep him upright. You got to keep him healthy. But Dan, I mean, what kind of grade do you give them overall total? I mean, 9-8, Dan, a lot of teams could be happy with 9-8. I mean, honestly.
I'd say a C.
A C.
Okay. They didn't start out very well. They finished better.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say, I don't know if I'd give them a B, considering they finished last in the division, but the division's pretty good. And if they had Burrow healthy the whole year, they're probably better than 9-8. So I know that definitely had something to do with it.
Yeah, I mean, they, even with Jamar Chase, he was out a couple of games last year too. With Burrows being out, of course. I mean, it's you need your quarterback to get the ball downfield. Yeah. And I mean, there was a big difference between Burrow and the backups, of course, there. But yeah, I got to go with I'm going to go B- as well. I mean, the only credit that I do give them, like you said, being in that tough division there, Dan. A lot of divisions we look at where you got the 2 bottom feeding teams, you're probably going to get maybe 2 to 3 wins in that division. Here, this division stacks, so those wins come far and few. So I got to give them a B- as well.
Yeah, I mean, Burrow played in 11 games.
11 games, yeah, 11 out of 17. I mean, still those 6 games. I mean, that goes a long way. When you can win 2 of those games, you're sitting at 11-6. That puts you in a playoff contention spot. But injuries played them last year very, to a downside, Dan. But
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to another team here. My neck of the woods, of course, the Pittsburgh Steelers last year.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tell you what, living up here, all I did was listen to the radio constantly. It's being in Philadelphia for a while, listen to that radio station. The naysayers, the haters. Every week it's a cockroach coming out, this, that, and the other thing. Pittsburgh, Dan, was the same way. I want Kenny Pickett out of here. This guy sucks. This guy sucks. Why did we get this guy? Play Mason Rudolph. Play Mitch Trubisky. Dan, what'd you see from last year from the Pittsburgh Steelers? The only thing I can say is somehow they find a way to get to the playoffs no matter what their record is at the beginning of the season, Dan. I give credit to Mike Tomlin at first.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Mike Tomlin did a great job. He did a great job coaching like he always does.
Mm-hmm.
And they had like a couple of different quarterbacks the season as well.
Yeah.
So, and to still make the playoffs, I think that's impressive.
And what the one thing, Dan, the other thing too is it all seemed to change when they fired Matt Canada.
Yeah.
When they got rid of the OC, it just became let's throw the ball downfield, let's run the ball, let's play Pittsburgh football here. And that's when it seemed to click a little bit when they fired the OC.
Yep.
And it seemed to be a little bit, I mean, it wasn't a night and day effect, of course. You made the playoffs, you turned it around. But to me, that was one of the deciding factors, too, firing your OC. But my thing is, Dan, why did they wait till almost week 13 to do this? You know what I mean?
I don't know. But, maybe they're holding out hope, but sometimes there's loyalty in the building. Sometimes you don't want to make a move mid-season.
Right.
But they had no choice. And Tomlin probably gave him a fair shot. Said maybe I'll give him more time. He probably should have done it sooner. But you could say in hindsight, we weren't really in the building.
Yeah.
So, but they did. I thought they did well. Considering they had a couple different quarterbacks and have stability at the position. So I thought again, Tomlin did a good job coaching and another winning season under his belt.
Yeah, I mean, credit to him. I mean, he's never had a losing system in his, tenure there. I mean, they played for him. But the one thing is, as I said, when they fired Canada, things started to change there. But going back, they had a turmoil of events down there, Dan. The biggest one was we all remember George Pickens. I don't block. Why would I block?
Exactly.
Why would I block for this team? I'm not going to put my injury, status on the line to go block for somebody. But I tell you, the crazy thing after that, Dan, the week after, he had 162 yards in the next game.
Yeah.
Somebody got some. I think either that, Dan, or somebody got in his ass and said, "Hey, listen, it's time. I don't care if you're a franchise wide receiver here. You can be out the door because Kenny Pickett's gone, which we'll talk about too. You know what I mean? So anybody's free game, Dan. I think they got in his ass a little bit, honestly.
Yeah, after that game, he played much better the rest of the season.
I agree. Mm-hmm.
You didn't know if they were going to make the playoffs or not.
Yeah,
the division was pretty good the whole year.
The division is stacked. I mean, if you come out of that division above 500, and like you said, everybody in the division came up 500. That's a stacked division right there. I mean, this is old school. We talk about the NFC East and our division, of course, which we'll get into in a couple of weeks here. But we also talk about our division. It's stacked defensively. The beast of the East. The defensive guru of the NFL. This, to me, is probably the best defensive division in football right here. The Browns, the Ravens, the Steelers, the Bengals, if they can get a couple players in the defensive side of the ball this year for the draft, I think this is a defensive division. But the one thing I'll say about the Pittsburgh Steelers, Dan, they always had a good running back. Where's Najee Harris been, Dan? I mean, he's not had the greatest, last 2 years of his career, honestly.
No, he definitely hasn't, but they've had a couple different offensive coordinators the past couple of years.
Very true.
I don't know how many coordinators they've had since he's been there, because he's coming up on his third season.
I believe it is, yeah.
So, they haven't really had stability in the type of offense they're trying to run. So I don't know. He wasn't what you thought he would be, but I think he needs a good offensive line in front of him.
Yeah, I think it's just like you said with the offensive coordinator there, learning the scheme, learning the fundamentals of what your players can and can't do, putting them in positions to excel. I mean, you go back when they had Le'Veon Bell. He was a good downfield runner, but he was more of a hesitant back that played in the backfield, sidestep, toe tapped a little bit to find the line. And Najee Harris is more of the Alabama type Crimson Tide runner who is north and south downfield. And that goes to show you when you don't have the best offensive line, it doesn't pan out very well.
It was his third year. He's going his fourth year, but actually he's had over 1,000 yards every year he's been in the NFL.
Wow, you know what? I'll be honest with you. I didn't. I thought it was a little bit under 1,000 last year. I'll tell you what.
A lot of carries though. 317 carries, 1,200 yards, 2021, 7 touchdowns.
Well, that goes to show you when Canada doesn't push the ball downfield. You have Pickett
down on the ball. He's got 3.9 average.
It's not bad.
1,034 yards, 2022. 1,035 yards, so better average, 4.18 touchdowns. So that's not bad.
Well, I'll tell you what, the word I would really want to use, I'll clarify what I want to say then. Now, I'll say those are quiet 1,000 yards right there. A very quiet. Yeah,
but he also, his rookie year, he had 467 receiving yards and 74 receptions.
Wow. That's something when you have him come out of the backfield.
I wonder who their offensive coordinator was in 2021.
I'm not sure. I don't have that pulled up, but I mean, that's a big difference there when you utilize a back coming out of the backfield. I mean, though, you look at those numbers, Dan, those are like Alvin Kamara numbers out of the backfield who can get, receptions there.
Yeah, last year he only had 29 for 170, but that had to do with the quarterback. Did Roethlisberger play in 2021? Last year?
I think it was 20 or 21. I think it was, Dan. It was been removed, 4 years now? 3 years?
That would make sense because they didn't really have a quarterback really in 2022 or last year, and it's gone down the past 2 years.
Right.
So he's capable of catching out of the backfield, giving you
Yeah, definitely.
1,800 yards, 1,800 yards total. But the Steelers, I think that, we'll talk about, the changes they made. I think they're going to be a
Definitely.
much better team, but I think they did well last year.
Yep.
I'm going to give them a B minus.
B minus. I'm going to go. I'm kind of hesitant on that fence. Dan, either B minus to a B there. I'm going to go B. I mean, I take away what their offensive coordinator Canada did for the first 13 games here, and with the numbers that you said, not utilizing your players in key positions here, getting them in open space. So I'm going to go B here. Honestly, I'm going to give
and you
that.
did it with Pickett, Rudolph, and Trubisky.
That's what I mean. A trio of quarterbacks. A trio of quarterbacks, Dan. And you know what the funny thing is, Dan? You know what the funny thing is? You mentioned 3 quarterbacks, which we'll get into a little bit later. I don't think any of them are there anymore, Dan.
No, they're not. We'll talk about that.
Definitely will. So yeah, I'm gonna go B here. Borderline B minus B here. I got to go with that. I'm gonna give them the the leniency of 3 quarterbacks, new OC. So I'm gonna give them that, plus the factor that we're talking about no quarterbacks still remaining there. But let's move on to the Cleveland Browns here real quick, Dan. Let's talk about them for a little bit before we talk about what we're talking about tonight. What did you see in their year last year?
I thought Flacco played really well for them. I thought they had a solid year. No one thought that they were gonna go 11-5.
I agree.
Flacco played well. Flacco had a good season, surprisingly, and he was out there for teams again. Deshaun Watson went down again, so but him playing well, I thought was a big surprise for them, and their defense was also good.
Well, Cleveland's always had that defense, that stout defense that can keep you in games. The bugaboo, the bugaboo was always how much can the offense score? When they brought Watson in, you're thinking like, okay, Watson can move the pocket, he can get the ball downfield, he can create plays, but then you're thinking like, okay, the offense is going to be good there. That's fine, but then he goes down. But I want to ask you one thing, honest your opinion here. When he went down, all the quarterbacks are out there. When they signed Joe Flacco, what were your first words like? The dude is 125 years old. What is he going to bring to this table? What did you think, honestly?
I thought that signing a veteran is smart. I just didn't know what he had left. That's really all it is. I know that he plays stable. He's a stable player. He's a stable quarterback. He's never been like really, really, really awful. He just, is older now. But I think Flacco, he came in and played well, like right away.
Yeah, that's a great thing you said there. Yeah, I agree with that. My first words were, my thoughts basically. They're bringing this guy here. He reminds me of, played for the same team, Ravens, Trent Dilfer type quarterback, can manage the game, not release, not turn the ball over, put you in positions to win the game here. Let your defense, step up, keep it close. That was to me. But then I thought like, okay, they have a great defense, but can they score with Flacco? But I tell you what, comeback player of the year, he deserved it. Well, I'll get a couple comments here. Eileen says, hello. Hey, Eileen, how you doing? So we got Cheryl Snyder checking in. Thank you, Cheryl Snyder checking in. Flacco is the backup for my coach. Yep, we'll definitely talk about that in a second when we talk about releases here for the teams. But, yeah, he got himself a contract, Dan. I mean, he played well enough to, not just be a savage veteran coming in here. He actually carried his team in many games, Dan, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, they played really well. I thought they had a pretty solid season. Didn't work out for them in the playoffs, but
right.
It's just the way it goes,
Yeah, I mean, what grade would you give this team here, Dan? I mean, 3 out of 4 playoff teams, Dan, in this division, basically. 2 out of 4.
I'm gonna say a B plus.
B plus, that high, huh? Okay.
Yeah, I thought I thought their coach did well. Was it Stefanski?
Stefanski.
I thought having Flacco, he's creative on offense. I thought he did a really good job overall. I thought they had a really solid season. It could have went south easily.
Yeah. I mean, you look at it, Dan. When your quarterback goes down, that you gave up the farm, the keys to the city, everything that you own, your second, third kid, basically for Watson there. When you bring in Flacco, a lot of even myself thought about like, okay, you know what? You're bringing just a veteran to keep the ship, from sinking here. You're not trying to climb the pinnacle here, get to the destination. I was just thinking like, okay, they just want to man the ship here, not sink. But I give him a B plus too, because of the fact that when you bring in a quarterback like that, he manned the ship, Dan, and he took you to a place where nobody thought they were going to be, honestly. I mean, I got to give him a B plus. I think they played well. The defense is great. They've stepped up. The offense was a little suspect at times, but Joe Flacco managed this game, man, and he put you in positions to win. I mean, I don't think they got blown out in Flacco's. I think there was one blowout, maybe over 13 points in his losses, but I think it was pretty damn close on all the games, honestly.
Yeah, it was the last one.
Last one, that's right. Yeah. Fantasy Football Girl checks in. Hey, how you guys doing? Hey, how are you doing, Fantasy? Thanks for checking in. Appreciate that.
45-10 or something.
40. Yeah, okay. I remember. Okay, I thought it was. I didn't think it was that. Oh, that's right. That's right. I thought it was like 35.
Texans went off on them.
Yeah, that's when they scored 28 points in the first quarter or something.
Yep.
Like that. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. So I give them a B+ too, Dan. I really do. I mean, a little bit different this year, which we'll talk about. But let's move on to the team, Dan. I mean, Baltimore Ravens, man. Lamar Jackson MVP. I mean,
they had a real good regular season, but again, they again they didn't get it done in the playoffs.
Dan, I tell you what. I mean, not to change the story here, but I don't know a lot of people that are happy with a division championship, a division title, but I don't play for participation, Stan. You know what I mean? I mean, you win a division, you get to the promised land, but you can't get over the the hill there. That's just the way it is. Some teams are regular season champions. They're not playoff champions here. But the key question I want to ask you, Dan, are we went through this whole season, Dan, with the NFL Pick'em show through the whole season. We're not very trophy wise or kudos to Lamar Jackson. Has that changed us in a way, Dan, or no? I mean, what is your philosophy based on, since we hold the season, past us now? What has changed about Lamar Jackson in your view and my view? You go first.
He's not clutch.
Key word. Thank you.
I don't think he's like in the big situations, especially in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. They scored like 10 points, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, they did not play well, and you expect someone like Lamar Jackson to be able to make the plays or get them over the top, but I don't think they played well at all as a team. The whole team didn't play well.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between stepping up as a whole team and your quarterback not showing up too. I mean, the regular season
they didn't show up at all.
No, they didn't show up at all. Exactly. I mean, but the one thing is that I've seen, when you can take away Lamar Jackson and when he only has a week to prepare for this and something he hasn't seen, the playbook's out. I mean, you take him away and you try to let him, you contain, I don't want to say you can take away him, you can contain him, keep him out of the pocket, always have a spy in the middle, control your gaps, control your lanes. That is the easiest blueprint to me of beating the Baltimore Ravens. When you put Lamar Jackson in a situation where I know I can beat you with my legs, but can I beat you with my arm and my downfield vision? That is something that I haven't seen, Dan. In the playoffs, we know, Dan, it's a different breed of football, man.
Absolutely,
you know what I mean?
Yep.
Different breed here. So I don't know, Dan. I mean, MVP, congratulations on your MVP season. But if you want to hang that trophy up on your mantle, I would only play for one trophy there. Of course, that's Lombardi, of course. But, Dan, what do you give this team from last year? I mean, hey, look where they ended up, Dan. I mean, a lot of teams just wish they were there.
A B.
Wow.
Even though they won the division.
Okay.
I thought it was more impressive what the Browns did, considering they had to change quarterbacks and bring in Flacco. And he's older than having Lamar Jackson. I think we expected Baltimore to kind of win the division.
That's a great point, Dan. I do agree with you there, because a lot of people say, well, hey, you get to this land here, where was the other team that you're giving a higher grade to? But overall, the eye test to me is exactly what you said. You lose your franchise guy, in Watson here, who hasn't played basically anything. You bring in Flacco, he turns it around, get you to a land where you didn't think you're going to be. But then on the opposite, you have a Lamar Jackson. We know what he is. He's a franchise player. He's a one of a kind specimen of his breed. Yeah. But the thing is, you have to look at what your expectations are for this team. You have a stout defense. Your offense is okay. You go out and get a number one wide receiver. You have a good running game, a great philosophy on their team here. But where you end up, you can't get over the mountain. So I agree. I'm going to give them like a B. I'll go solid B here, because the key word, like you said, clutch and not showing up. And the other thing is, Dan, how many games did we see? I've got the wide receiver's name where it was a first down. They could have closed that game, Dan, but he had a personal foul on him for taunting after he got the play, the catch that pushed it back. That to me is still, this team's young, their mentality level. It all falls on that quarterback, Dan. If that was me and I'm Lamar Jackson, I would have been in that kid's face, number one, saying, chill out. You don't need this. We're fighting for a playoff spot here. We want. This is actually. It was in the playoffs. Actually, it was that play. Yeah, but I agree. I'm going to go B here as well, Dan. B.
I mean, I don't know if I can really give them an A of any time because they should have done more in the playoffs, to be honest.
I agree. I agree with that one too. I mean, if they would have changed in the playoffs, but I base myself, Dan, from 1-17 regular season, and I don't just stop it there. I carry it on. If your team doesn't make the playoffs, I grade you for where you are. But if you don't make the playoffs, especially as a number one seed, Dan, a number one seed in the NFL.
So you had home field advantage. So
throughout.
I expect you to at least, get close to a conference championship game.
Yeah,
you kind of expected them to get the AFC title game.
Yeah, I mean, what was it, 13-4 last year, Dan? You get the 13-4 the whole year here. You look unstoppable. We've talked. I mean, on our show, Dan, we talked about, wow, this team's defense can win games for you. Lamar, if he puts it together, good God, this team could be special. But it's called about showing up at the right time and put your game plan together. And I got to go B as well. 13-4, you get a B for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Dan, you know what? A lot has changed though. This free agency. I mean, they came out swinging here. How about we go from the bottom division and all the way up? How about we start with the Cincinnati Bengals here?
Yep.
Wow.
Well, yeah, A.J. McCarron gone. The backup, Joe Mixon, got traded to the Texans.
Let's talk about him real quick. Let's talk about him. Joe Mixon, Dan. You're arguably your number one, your RB number one here, who had the game that stands out last year, Dan, 5 touchdowns in one game to me. Okay. You get rid of him. I know he had legal issues, Dan. I understand the legal issues that he had, but he was cleared of that. Everything's clear. So why would you get rid of Mixon, who's an all-purpose back, out of the backfield, running the ball? What do you think about the scenario about that?
I don't know. I really didn't expect him to get traded, to be honest.
Me either.
My question is, where was his contract at?
Right.
Maybe they thought they weren't going to be able to pay him.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they said, "Oh, let's get something for him." But I'm surprised they traded him. As good as he's been, it's a security blanket for a quarterback. So I don't know who their backup was.
Oh my God! They had Zach Moss too for a while.
Yeah. Well, they signed Zach Moss.
Yeah, I think that's right. They had signed him.
But Joe Mixon's gone. Tyler Boyd, he's a free agent.
Yeah, he's still on the boards out there.
Irv Smith, Michael Wilcox, their tight end. Jonah Williams went to the Cardinals, their tackle. DJ Reader, defensive line to the Lions. Josh Topu, I think is how you say it.
Oh, the linebacker, or the defensive tackle, Josh Tupoba.
Yeah, Tupoba. Awuzie to the Titans, and he went to the Titans.
Yeah, 3 years, $36 million.
Yeah, Awuzie.
Former Cowboy.
Is T. Higgins going to get traded?
Well, I don't know what the stipulation is there, Dan. I mean, they franchised him, correct?
I don't think so. I'm going to say no.
I don't think they trade him. I think he's going to have to play out his contract. Either that, or he's just going to avoid the money that he's earned. Honestly,
I think it was smart to franchise him, and I think that you want to keep him with Jamar Chase. Both of them together are a good combo.
I mean, that's a 1-2 punch, right? That's a 1-2 punch right there. And if they can get, if they can sign Tyler Boyd coming back too, Dan, that's going to be a
possibly because he's still a free agent.
Yeah, I mean, as long as he goes out on free agency and is not signed yet, that's a key incentive for the Bengals to bring him back on a cheaper price.
Unless they want to draft somebody in the draft, unless they want to not sign him and just go through the draft.
That's true too. That is true.
But I expect him to maybe go offensive line in the draft too, if there's one there when they pick. But,
they did lose their starting offensive right tackle, Jonah Williams, too. He goes to Arizona, too. And that tells me right there, if I'm a player, I'm especially Burrows, Dan, if I'm sitting there coming back and I'm thinking, the problem is I keep getting injured, my hand, my knee, my leg. You're not protecting me here. Well, why are you giving away my right tackle? Why can't we franchise my right tackle? And then also, I mean, they did sign Trenton Brown, from New England, 2 year. I'm sorry, was it? I think it was
but Williams is better, but maybe.
Yes.
Maybe they're looking at somebody in the draft.
I think you have to. I mean, that's the key thing, Dan. You got to keep this guy. I mean, from LSU, Joe Burrows. We call him the franchise QB. Signed his big lucrative deal already as a young age, but I think you got to keep him upright. If you don't keep him upright, this could go south really fast, and I don't even know if he can make it through a whole season, Dan, again.
Well, that's the thing. He hasn't really made it through a whole season yet, I think.
No, I think his first 3 years. Then he missed like the first 2 games or something like that of every
Yep.
season that he's
And then he had
played.
the major injury. He was out the whole year.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And last year he was hurt again.
Hmm.
So, missed 6 games.
Hmm. Now, do you think bringing Mike Gesicki in from the Dolphins at tight end, do you think that's going to help him out too?
I
Because
think
I
that's
mean,
going to help him. Yes, I think Gesicki's a solid tight end.
okay, because they lost Irv Smith. Irv Smith went to Kansas City. Their
They
tight end
also
there.
signed Tanner Hudson and Drew Sample at tight end.
Yeah, I like Drew Sample. I like Drew Sample. He's a Notre Dame product. He's a good run blocker too. He can help you protect too, and I think that's a good acquisition there because he's a blocking tight end and he can help you in the backfield,
Yeah.
helping out chip blocking as well. So I think that's a good move too.
But I like Gesicki though. I like him.
I do too. I like him playing tight end. He's a good guy there. I think the other one that's the defense tackle. We didn't talk about Sheldon Rankings. I think he's a solid guy too, coming up from Houston.
Yep.
They did steal him from Houston, 2-year deal, $24 million.
It's a real good signing. He's solid.
And they lost DJ Reader at defensive tackle. So what they did, whoever they lost, Dan, they actually filled up a spot for that. You lose Reader, you get Rankins,
and you swap those two.
Yep, exactly.
They signed Trent Brown, Cody Ford, offensive guard, Akeem Davis-Gaither, linebacker, Von Bell.
Yeah.
And Geno Stone, another safety.
And they got Von Bell really cheap too. 1 year, $1.2 million. That's really cheap there too.
It's very cheap.
But the one thing I want to ask you too is, this is the question: you lose Mixon, you bring in Zach Moss, Dan. There's not a balance there.
There's a drop off there.
Big drop, right?
Zach Moss is solid, but he's not Mixon.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Not even close. He's a solid running back, but I see him more as a running back that's good in like a split back, like where you split time with a running back.
I mean, what made him too? Yeah, exactly. I think he's going to be the starter, of course, unless you get somebody out there that can beat him in camp. Of course,
you can always draft one. There are some running backs in the draft.
Yeah, I mean, there's going
to
be some late, round pickups for the running backs. I mean, right now we're looking at RB1 Zach Moss here, but I think let's talk about their drafts, Dan. Where do you think they go in the draft picks here? They suffice. They lost a guard. They have tackle, right tackle. They got a tackle, but we've as we said this whole time talking about the Bengals here, Dan. You got to keep Burrows upright. You got to protect your franchise QB. Do they go OT here? I mean, do they go offensive guard? Picking? I don't even have it up here, Dan. Actually, you have it up for the draft picks?
I'll pull it up, but yeah, they might go offense.
I think you have to. I think you have to.
I think offensive tackle would make sense.
I kind of agree with that. I mean, to me, like you have to protect. I said
pick 18.
I mean, 18, Dan. I mean, there's still 4 offensive tackles out there. There's
guards. There's a couple good guards there. There's the guy from West Virginia. There's Hayes from UConn, and then there's also BB. I think there's another guard. So offensive line is something you can get. There's going to be a weapon there if they want to take another weapon. I don't know if you're going to take a running back that high.
No, I don't think you get that running back there. I mean, to me, there's no running back that's going to demand a first round.
Maybe an impact player on defense if one falls to 18.
That's true. I mean, to me, I got to go
Burrow upright is the most important thing, or helping him. So one weapon, an offensive lineman, a guard, or a tackle. Somebody's going to help him immediately. Someone that can step in and play.
To me, I'm going to go offensive line here, Dan, because I'm looking at, we already know, of course, we're going to talk about who picked up what, who lost what. But the way I'm looking at this division now, okay, the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think they're going to score a lot more points this year. The Baltimore Ravens, of course, you got to go defense because you got to stop Lamar Jackson. You got to get that stud player.
Yeah.
Cleveland, we don't know what their new quarterbacks, which we'll talk about in a second there. But to me, I got to keep my quarterback here because my defense is not as great as the Steelers, the Browns, the Ravens. I got to score points. I got to score points. And the only way to score points is if I keep Joe Burrows upright. So I got to go offensive line. Best player available in a key lock position here for the Bengals.
Take that Oregon State offensive tackle.
Oh, he's been solid. I don't know if he's going to drop to 18, though.
I don't know if he's going to drop to 18, but there's other tackles there. You can take there's a guy from Bama, Latham.
J.C. Latham, yeah.
There are other tackles there. And, if not, you could take a guard.
Yeah, Michigan's got two top two. One's offensive tackle, one offensive guard in the draft this year. I think they fall between. I'm going to project them maybe a 20 to a 20 to 30 guy. I think they could pick him up there because They're run stoppers. Look at how they protected J.J. McCarthy, and when J.J. McCarthy stood in the pocket, they protected him. So I think that would be a good philosophy there. But what do you think the biggest acquisition was for the Bengals this year, Dan? They didn't do much, honestly. Picking up players here, position players they did, but what stood on your mind that they actually picked up this year? To me, I got to go Rankins. I think he's a solid.
Rankins or
I think Aduzzi.
I'm going to say Rankins or Gesicki, as crazy as it sounds, but I'm going to say Rankins. Rankins seems like the best player that they signed.
I agree.
And I think you actually got better at that position.
I agree. He was solid there. I mean, playing into that 3-4 defense with, DeMarco Ryans, I think he was solid there. That was a good pickup, too, especially when you lose one, too. Now, the other person they brought in, Dan, I didn't mention that they lost DJ Reed. That's the DJ Reed that they, flipped out there. But the other, I was talking on Twitter today, and a lot of people were saying, Chuma Aduzzi. I don't like him, Dan, because I still don't like that guy because he played with Dallas. He was a no-show in Dallas for years there. So I don't like this kid, Dan, but I don't think he's a true 3 years, $12 million a year, Dan. That's top 15 in the league at corner.
Yeah, exactly. Like a Wuzier, I mean, I think you can get a player in the draft too.
I think so too.
Back on the draft, and I think they'll be okay without him.
I agree too. I mean, what one player hurts the most? I got to say Mixon. Mixon is the biggest
I think
thing.
Mixon is the biggest blow to their offense.
I agree, 100%.
I would say, because if they don't have a running back, I mean, no one's really going to be as worried about Moss as you are Mixon. Mixon's such a tough runner, keeps his legs going. He runs with a lot of effort. I like the way he runs. He can catch out of the backfield. He's a solid player.
Agree, 100%.
It's the best player they lost by far.
Yeah, I mean that's a solid blow right there.
And they traded him. They chose to trade him.
That's the thing. Yeah, when you trade a player like that, I mean, Dan, I coach offense, and if I lose
more to it.
There has to be writing on the wall, Dan. We know that. I mean, there's something
behind the scenes.
There has to be.
Or maybe it's mutual. Maybe he just wants to move on. It's possible.
My question is this, Dan. Let's put it in a little role play here. If I'm the head coach or the GM, and I see, you're my quarterback there, Dan. You're playing Joe Burrows today, and I got Joe Mixon coming here, and I got Joey. You as Joey sitting here, and I'm thinking like, hey, listen, I think we're going to part ways here. What's the first thing go in your head, Dan? Like my number one weapon, opposite of Jamar Chase here, my go-to wide receiver, my man behind me that I can count on for a pass block. I get outside on a screen, a check down. I'm losing that now. I got to start all over. How do you feel as a quarterback, Dan? The franchise QB here.
It sucks, but I'm more concerned about keeping myself upright.
Great point. I like that.
I don't like losing Mixon, but Burrow knows it's a business.
Yeah,
and he'll make do without him. He's talented enough. He'll be okay.
That's the one thing. A lot of people don't look at that, Dan. I mean, I look at it certain ways too, but I do see the philosophy of what you said there. Mixon, he's going to arguably, his contract year is coming up next year, so he's going to be paid top 10 in the league, top 5 most likely in the league. But to me, you made that great point. You want to keep Joe Burrows upright. This is a 2-for-1 deal, Dan. You can go out and get 2 offensive starters for the price of a Joe Mixon, honestly, if you really think about this.
Exactly.
So keep him upright. So that's a great thing here. All right, so how about we move on? Well, first, we'll talk about that last, how we're going to see the seedings here. But let's move on to the Pittsburgh Steelers here, Dan. I think, to me, damn, they got let's talk about, want to talk about who they lost first, Dan, before we talk about who they picked up?
Yeah, Kenny Pickett got traded to the Eagles.
Wow.
Mason Rudolph went to the Titans. Trubisky went to the Bills. That's no quarterbacks.
That's 3 quarterbacks, 3 starting quarterbacks last year. All 3 gone.
Puff, see ya. Boykin, Deontay Johnson got traded to the Panthers, so they're getting assets. You could tell they're getting whatever assets they can get. They want. Al Robinson, Okafor went to the Patriots.
Yeah.
Their center Mason Cole, Marcus Golden, I can't believe he's still playing. He played for us like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Armon Watts, Kawan Alexander, I think that's a big loss. Mikal Walker, Patrick Peterson, Sullivan, Levy Wallace, Keanu Neal. Those are their losses.
Now, Keanu Alexander actually was scheduled to go to a team, but he failed his physical. I forgot what team it was. He failed his physical to go there. And the other one I want to ask you, did Allen Robinson get signed yet, the wide receiver? I mean, he's up there in age. He's 30, which is really kind of still mid-range there. He didn't get signed yet, correct?
He didn't get signed yet.
Okay.
It doesn't say he's not signed yet.
Okay. Yeah, to me, I mean, when you lose 3 quarterbacks, Dan, as we talked earlier from last season, you lose Trubisky, you lose Pickett, and you lose Rudolph here. All 3 are gone. But to me, it's like I listen to the radio up here like, okay, I understand Trubisky. I understand Mason Rudolph, who could get in games and he can keep you afloat a little bit. But when you go out and you get a Kenny Pickett, played at Pittsburgh University, the Panthers here, it was the backyard hero coming in here. He couldn't get it done. Ship him out. We don't care anymore. But when you lose 3 starting quarterbacks, Dan, and you got to rebuild, but I don't want to call this a rebuild, Dan, because we talked about the players that they lost, last year. But the players they brought in, Dan, let's talk about one name. Let's talk about one name.
Russell Wilson.
Let's talk about that name, Dan.
But now the 3 quarterbacks are Wilson, Fields, and Kyle Allen.
I like 2 of the names, honestly, right away. You know what I mean?
To be honest, their quarterback group is better now.
100%.
Sorry, Russell Wilson for what? 1.4 million, 1.2 million for 1 year.
Exactly.
That's a no-brainer right there. That makes that means you got your quarterback boom done. Dan, you have Justin Fields as a backup, and he could learn from Wilson.
And that is the key word, Dan. Here's what you have. Here's what I thought. I was talking to a couple
surprised they
people.
traded for him.
I'm not in a way. I'm not, because I was talking to a couple guys a couple days ago about Pittsburgh.
Not that he got traded, but that the Steelers traded for him.
Yeah. Here's my thing with Russell Wilson. You said the key word, $1.4 million. No brainer. A blind man, a deaf man, a stupid man could have made that decision, Dan. $1.4 million for a quarterback that's been to the Super Bowl, been a leader, knows the system. It's off field. He doesn't do anything wrong, stays on the field, does what he has to do.
Yep.
You're starting quarterback on $1.4 million, Dan. That's no brain. Number 2, Justin Fields. He's still on his rookie contract, Dan.
Exactly. So that makes it even better for the Steelers.
You're basically
paying right now.
You're paying under $5 million for 2 arguably starting quarterbacks in the NFL, Dan. If Russell Wilson pans out, hey, you know what? Sign him to a 3-year deal, whatever. Justin Fields is still a lot better than I want to say a quarter of these starting quarterbacks in the NFL, Dan, if he goes to the right team. That could be a plug-and-play asset, trade block right there for him.
But it could be someone that could step in if he could get better coaching in Pittsburgh and someone could develop a little bit more. He could step in for Wilson. Who knows?
And Dan,
I think it's a good backup to have. That's all.
Oh, it definitely is. And I always said this, Dan, coaching, I like to mirror my quarterbacks between my 1A starter, my 1B starter. I don't want a vanilla, offense, my second string quarterback where, Dan, you're the mobile quarterback. I can't run. I don't want that. I want 2 quarterbacks that mirror themselves. You have it so much better with Russell Wilson to Justin Fields. Both can get out of the pocket still. They can get downfield. They can push the ball downfield. I like this move, Dan. I love this move. I really do.
I think it's a great move. Like I said, if we didn't have Jones, I would have jumped it on Wilson in a second. Like, I'll give you $2 million. I'll give you 3. I'll give you 5. Like anywhere in that range, whatever.
Well, I think the reason why he didn't do that, Dan, because he heard you guys didn't.
We have no offensive line.
Well, in that you guys lost, your running back too. I don't think he wanted to go there with no running back too. I'm sorry.
But they had Russell Wilson. I think that makes it better. They have 3 new wide receivers: Van Jefferson, Cordell Patterson, who could be play running back too.
Yes.
Quez Watkins, which I like that signing.
Mm-hmm. Cheap, 1.2, 1.3
million.
million.
A good depth piece. I could see them drafting a receiver.
You really you think so? I mean, bringing in Cordell Patterson, Van Jefferson, and Quez
maybe
Watkins.
Offensive line.
You know what?
Maybe they'll go defense. Maybe they'll just improve their defense.
I think we did a draft, Dan, and I think I went offensive tackle, offensive guard, best available here. But I think Pittsburgh, to me, I think with the key thing, I don't want to say he's always going to be hurt, but to me, T.J. Watt gets hurt a lot, Dan.
Maybe they want to go pass rusher.
And I think you have to go opposite of T.J. Watt because Dan, we know him. He's like the
Verse if he's there, or like some other pass rusher.
If they get Verse in that situation, Dan, that's a solid bookend between him and Watt. I mean, that really is.
It would make sense for them to take a fast outside linebacker, defensive end pass rusher.
Mm-hmm. Well,
like Pittsburgh to do that.
Well, the other thing is, I mean, do you put all your eggs in a basket and go out of like a Edgerrin Cooper here and get that linebacker? You lost Patrick Queen. I mean, you got Patrick Queen. You gained Patrick Queen.
You
Do you want another
Patrick,
linebacker?
Yeah,
Do you want another?
you gave Patrick Queen, but the thing is, like, why not?
I mean, you look at San Francisco's defense. They had Warner, Greenlaw. You know, you look at those guys, solid running back, side linebackers there. Do you want to put that same philosophy on the field when you got a Watt on your end? I mean, I could see a defense here. I don't think they go linebacker that high. Best available, maybe third round best available. But I'm gonna go offensive side of the ball here. I think you got to go offense because Russell Wilson doesn't like to run anymore, Dan. Ever since he left Seattle, he doesn't like to get out of the pocket. He can, but he doesn't like to, Dan.
Yeah, he doesn't like to at all.
And when was the last time, Pittsburgh had a running quarterback? Ben could get out of the pocket when he rumbled and ran through you, but when was the last time they had a quarterback that ran up the field like that? They've never had one. They've always protected their quarterback, Dan.
Yes, they have.
So I think they go offensive line here. I think that's where they go for this seat. That's their draft pick there. Dan, where are they picking at?
The Steelers
I don't have a draft board in front of me. Still in a solid position where you get, a best available. Maybe, Dan, I mean, this right here sitting at 20, you can still get a top 2 player on your board in that key position.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, they have a couple of options, but I want to protect Wilson, and maybe like I said, they could get a defensive piece to improve their defense because we need defense in that division.
Yeah, I mean, you picked up Deshaun Elliott. He's a 2-year deal, $6 million. That's playing the defensive safety role there. They did re-sign Demetrius Adams. I think Demetrius Adams. He's a good, solid piece, but he's not that bookend. Of course, he's DT. He's not the DN there. I mean, they did sign 2. They re-signed Killebrew too. That's huge, Miles Killebrew as well. But I think the defense is okay. But you have to either go defensive end, like a verse type player.
Like I said, they signed Patrick Queen, Dean Lowry. It's a real good sign. They got Deontay Jackson. Deshaun Elliott, like you said, Killebrew. So, but what'd you say? I'm sorry.
Well, I think you got to go defense. If a verse falls to you, that's a no-brainer. I think you can pick up that position.
I think who falls might determine who they take.
Now, there is one guy that he played with you for a while, Dan. He's an inside linebacker there. He's a free agent too. He's not been signed yet. Do you take a flyer on Blake Martinez? He's still out there. He's still out for the Pittsburgh roster. He's on the roster, but it's not clear that they'll sign him. I didn't pull that up, but I'm not sure. All I did was pull.
Ever since he had the injury, I thought he was done. To be honest.
Okay.
Because I know he just went and retired, but I know he got hurt, and ever since he had the injury, he just wasn't the same.
Gotcha. Okay.
A good year for us and a bad year for us.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, we always talk about this division. I talked about Joe Burrows is probably going to be the best quarterback in the division, throwing the ball if he's upright and healthy. Russell Wilson could be that guy, too, can push the ball downfield. We know he has that solid arm, keep plays alive. Dan, would it shock you if they went out and let's say they got a Brian Thomas, a Keon Coleman?
No.
Would that shock you at 20?
It would not shock me at 20 because their offense was not good. Their offense was not that good, and their offense needs to improve. And I think adding another weapon could help Wilson tremendously.
I agree. I think if you could team up with a Pickens on the outside, I mean, you look at what Russell Wilson did with this trio of wide receivers.
Maybe able to take like Leggett is also a good receiver too.
That would be nice. That would be nice too.
Or Leggett is how you say it.
Yeah, Leggett. Yep. Corey Leggett or something like that, wasn't it? Or something like that.
Or Worthy.
Oh, Xavier Worthy. That's talking about taking the roof off the house, Dan. If you get some like
Brian Thomas Jr. and Keon Coleman will probably be there at 20.
I agree. I mean, that wouldn't shock me honestly, because to me, like if you're solid enough to have a quarterback that can get out of the pocket when he needs to keep plays alive, I think this is a key scenario where if a Thomas is available, a Worthy. I don't think Worthy is arguably a top 20 pick though. I think he's probably a second, mid, early first, late first, or early second, late first. Brian Thomas could be that guy, Dan, where if he's there, this could possibly be a good pickup for them. Either that or a Keon Coleman. Keon Coleman, I think, is a little reach, but I think any wide receiver
Brian Thomas Jr. wouldn't be a reach.
No, definitely not.
Wouldn't be a reach.
You think Worthy's not a reach at 20?
No, it's a steal.
Really? Okay.
At 20, I think.
Gotcha.
He's a real good player.
Okay. Well, as we talked about with the Bengals here, losing Mixon, that was their key loss there, of course. What was the key loss for the
not the Bengals, the Steelers.
Yeah, I mentioned Joe Mixon for
their key loss.
Yeah, key loss for the Pittsburgh Steelers here. We can't say quarterback. We know that's an easy.
Okafor, I guess.
Okafor? Okay.
Pickett, no. Rudolph, no. Bourne, no.
Mm-hmm.
Deontay Johnson, not really, I guess. I mean, they didn't really lose like a lot of great players.
That's very true. I mean,
To
they didn't
be
really
honest, I
lose.
think they came out just fine.
Yeah, I
Lost
think
a linebacker, but they signed Patrick Queen.
exactly.
You know, they signed receivers. Their quarterback room is better.
Yes.
I think they're better. Came out on the other side, a better team, to be honest.
I agree with what they lost. Dan, it wasn't much, honestly. You know, they re-signed a lot of their players, so they didn't lose anybody really, and they only gained. I mean, you go from probably the worst quarterback room in the NFL here to arguably top five maybe if they pan out. You know, you got two solid starting quarterbacks that started last year, of course. Well, Russell Wilson was a little bit different breed there, animal there, scheme wise, but you know. The thing is, to me, you gain assets here, number one, and you solidified that back end, Dan, with Patrick Queen in the mid range there behind the wall there.
Dave Yardell asks, is Amari Cooper a free agent?
I believe he is. I think that has one more year, but he's going to argue between a $16 to $20 million. To me, he's not going to demand that anywhere, honestly, Dan. You know.
Yeah.
If he is, I mean, I'm not going to pay him. He got his money through Dallas's contract, and Cleveland overpaid for that. You know, giving us a 5th round pick. So I don't even think he could demand a $12 to $15 million contract right now. You know, I really don't. I mean, I give him you know a little deflection there because the quarterbacks he played with too. But still, you got to produce on the field no matter what. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I think the key position here, Dan, the key acquisition, of course, is Patrick Queen. Of course, on defense side ball, Russell Wilson, you can't argue with that one too. Even the Justin Fields deal for what was it, a 5th round pick, Dan?
I think if you're going to give a 5th round pick for him and you have him and Wilson, I think the hope is he learns a little bit from Wilson.
You have
it will help him. It's Pittsburgh; they're a much better coach team.
Right, exactly. I think, and the key thing is, like you said, $1.4 million for Russell Wilson, and then you talk about $3 million contract. No brainer. I mean, you talk about quarterbacks nowadays. One quarterback's going to be $55 million a year, Dan. And right now, this year, you got 2 quarterbacks under $6 million.
That's like ridiculous.
It's insane. It's insane, Dan. And all the money. That's how they went out and got Patrick Queen. 3 years, $41 million.
Any team needed a quarterback should have been jumping on Russell Wilson.
We talked about that on the show
immediately.
Yeah, we talked about it on the show how many times, and we said, like, hey, listen.
The Raiders, like any of the Saints, like,
makes no sense.
Anybody, us, like anybody.
It's I don't get it. You know, I'm very surprised. You know,
it would have been honestly, perfect for someone to sign him and then draft a QB.
Yes, 100%. I mean, you can play him 1 year. Listen, if you keep the boat, boat afloat, that's fine. You're only paying $1.4 million. Next year, you know, you're going to be a top 10 pick. You go out and get your quarterback next year. You have him on a 5-year lock deal, very cheap too. So why not? It makes sense for the Pittsburgh Steelers. You know, the offensive side of the ball, they're looking good. But let's talk about another team, Dan. Let's go to the Cleveland Browns here. You know, Joe Flacco's the big thing. Joe Flacco's gone. You know, just like
Flacco is gone, but I expected him to be.
I did too, Dan. I think he played his contract 1 year. He got his deal. He moved on. Congratulations. You know.
Yep. And they lost Driscoll and PJ Walker. Oh.
Yeah. Jordan Elliott's gone to a defensive tackle.
So another team that their QB room is totally different now.
Big time.
Yep, but Kareem Hunt's still a free agent.
Kareem Hunt, definitely. He's still free agent as well.
Marquise Goodwin's a free agent.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Harris, their center, went to the Seahawks. Jordan Elliott went to the 49ers.
Mm-hmm.
Tataki, the linebacker, went to the Patriots. Anthony Walker, Mike Ford.
Houston.
Gerard Harmon's a free agent. So Kareem Hunt, I don't know what's going on with him, if he's going to come back or not.
I'm not sure. I heard something about the injury bug was still like the bugaboo about him if he can continue to stay healthy, because the way he played last year, he did miss a couple of games there, not being 100% as well.
I mean, Jeff Flacco, I expected him to go somewhere else. I expected him to stay with the Browns. I thought that was just a 1-year thing. Being they have Watson, but I don't know what Watson's going to do. I have no idea.
I don't think anybody can ever take that contract what they owe Watson did. I mean, they're in purgatory hell where they have to owe this guy for the next 3 years, guaranteed money basically too. And his dead cap space, Dan, is, you know, I talk about Dak for holding me stranglehold. Watson is the same situation, but worse, Dan, for the next 3 years.
Yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do. They signed Tyler Huntley and James Winston.
Let's talk about them too, right there. I mean, Tyron Huntley, played for, of course, behind Lamar
Winston
Jackson
may
for
end up
years.
playing if Watson doesn't play well. Who knows?
That's the thing too. I mean, Watson. The thing is, Dan. But here's the thing with Cleveland, though, they don't push the ball downfield. Dan, Jameis Winston loves to throw that deep ball, get
He
that ball
does.
downfield, and Cleveland is not built to throw the ball downfield. Dan, big
No.
difference here. So if Watson doesn't pan out, you don't have the proper tools for a Jameis Winston type quarterback right now.
No, definitely not. They have Jerry Jeudy, who they traded for.
They did get him. That's one. Key possession
That's something.
there. True, very true.
Maybe another weapon's what they need.
Mm-hmm.
They have Naheem Hines, Donta Foreman, Michael Dunn, offensive guards. Darius Smith is a good signing for that. Re-signed with them. That's a good signing.
That is a 2 year, $23 million. That's a good sign. And re-signed there as well. You re-signed your team.
Yep, re-signed Shelby Harris, Maurice Hurst, Quentin Jefferson, Devin Bush, Jordan Hicks, Rodney McLeod Jr. So I think their defense is going to be good. Their defense will be good again.
Yeah, I think they reloaded on defense. Getting Quentin Jefferson from the Jets, I think he's a solid guy. Nose tackle, pretty cheap too. 1 year, $4 million. To me, that's a depth move as well. But the one I kind of puzzled with is the QB. Dan, I mean, you're putting all your eggs in a basket, which you have to. Easter's over. You still have leftover eggs. You have to put all your eggs in a basket with Deshaun Watson here. Of course, you can't trade him. You can't cut him because if you cut him, you already paid him. He's like a Russell Wilson deal, Dan. Next team that gets him is going to be basically playing for free. Number one, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
But I don't know. I mean, what Dave says is J.K. Dobbins still out there. I wouldn't take him at all because he's injury prone. He's so many injuries. He's every week he's banged up with something. Great talent, great speed guy coming out of Ohio State, but he's been banged up. I don't know if I could take him honestly. Running backs now are getting bigger carries, and I don't want an injury prone running back coming into my committee here.
Yeah, definitely not.
No. One guy I want to talk about, Dan, is I like this guy, Devin Bush, from the Seattle Seahawks, inside linebacker too. I like that pickup there. I love how he plays too. He reminds me of I don't want to say it's the same version of a Bobby Wagner, but he plays, key fundamental positions. Yeah. He has the eyes on the ball. I think that's a solid pickup too.
I like the Jordan Hicks pickup too.
I like that too. I mean, a 2 year deal, $8 million, $4 million a year. That's a solid pickup coming over from Minnesota too. The other one, we talked about, Baltimore getting key positions too. Bengals did as well. You lose Shiitake, which I love. Because he seems like a Japanese name to me, and I'm Japanese. I love that name.
Yeah.
You lose him, but then you go out and you get like a Jordan Hicks, basically a little bit more pricey, but same situational player, Dan. So they lost pieces, they picked up players.
But they lost Anthony Walker, but they're better at linebacker now.
And I love the Zamarius Smith pickup from re-signing. They had to have him, Dan. They had to have him. It was
a Darius Smith of Garrett on the other side.
Exactly. I think they're solid.
Their defense is going to be top 5, maybe.
It's going to carry the team this year. And you know what? The thing is, Dan, we always say this: if this offense can get behind Deshaun Watson and start putting up points to put him ahead of the sticks, this team could be something really special because defense rides this team, Dan. Rides this team 100% here.
But with Flacco, they were kind of limited.
That's what I mean. Yeah, he didn't push the ball. He had the arm, Dan, but no offensive line can stand there for 4 seconds to give you time, Dan.
But there's a problem.
What do you see?
They don't have a first-round pick.
That's the thing, Dan. So what do you do here? I mean, you're all in already.
Their pick 54 is their first pick.
So your second round, 20, 53, you're 22 in the draft?
54, pick 54.
Wow, you're talking overall. 20. You're over 23rd in the second round.
You're going best player available at 54.
That's the thing. You have to just sit there in the war room. You're kicking back on Thursday night. You don't even
have to show
up on
Unless a player in
Thursday.
your top 20 fell there on your board.
Do you think they can move up, Dan? I mean, you don't have assets to move up, Dan, and who can you trade right now? Nobody's going to want Deshaun Watson. That's off the board right now.
They pick 85. And I don't think they have enough assets to move.
They can't. I mean, you can't move, correct? You can't. There's no way.
Well, I don't know I don't think they're going to be able to move.
I don't think so too. I think you're just picking at 54, and that's the best. Just like you said, best player available here. Who's falling on the draft board? Am I linebacker?
In the 50s and 60s, you're doing best player available. You're looking at your
You have
board,
to. You have to.
players in your top 25. If any of them fall in, it's a best player available situation for them.
It definitely
I
is.
have no idea who they're going to pick.
To me, you know what? To me, Dan, if I'm sitting in a war room on that Friday night, which we'll be doing a draft, of course, for the rounds 2 and 3.
Maybe a wide receiver will be there at 54.
Oh wow! Well, you know what? I think
Not
about
a
their
top
wide
one,
receivers.
but maybe a solid one. Maybe Devin
Yeah.
Baker from UCF.
Oh, that's a nice guy. You can pick him up. To me, I'm going to go offensive side of the ball here. I think my defense can win me games here. I'm going to go offense, best player available. To me, I'm probably going to go offensive line here if one falls to me at 54.
If one falls, yeah. A
If
guard
not,
could be there if they need a guard.
that's true. That's true too. Either that or I might take a flyer on a wide receiver. Let's just say.
Depends on who gets there.
Yeah, I agree with that. Dave says now that Flacco's gone with Cole, who's Watson back up? Jameis Winston's going to fight for that first job.
Winston, his backup. Huntley won't beat out Winston.
No, Huntley will not. He's going to be the third QB.
Huntley will not beat him out. He'll be the third emergency quarterback or whatever.
Yeah, I think he's going to be like 54th man on the roster. I don't even think he's going to make the roster, but he's going to dress, of course, because the new rule, of course, the San Francisco rule, where you dress 53. One quarterback is your situational emergency quarterback.
Exactly,
I think he's that 54th guy, Dan. I think it's going to be him and Winston as at 1-2.
Yep.
Do you think okay, here's my question to you real quick, Dan, before we move on here. How long of a losing streak does Deshaun Watson have to have before we talk about let's bring in Mr. Crab Fryer, crab legs, Jameis Winston? How long, Dan? How long are you giving to Sam Ace?
3.
3 games, and is he on a leash week 1? Yes or no?
No.
No? Okay.
I think he'd have to throw like 4 picks. I think no matter what, he'll play all of week 1.
Okay, agree.
And I think 3 at most.
Okay.
No, David, no way. If they lose 3 games in a row, they'll make a change.
Yeah, I
let's talk about how they lose. It's not going to be their defense.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be how many points they score. How many points they're going to average after 3 games.
I agree with you, Dan. I think they're probably going to get between 13 to 17 points a game. I think this defense is that damn good.
Have a long leash, in my opinion.
I'm going to go 3 to 4 games here, but the big quotation thing here, Dan, is how they lose. You know what I mean? Just like you said, if he comes out and tries to push the ball downfield, makes bad reads, throws into double coverage, or gets out of the pocket, fumbles the ball trying to extend a play.
Yeah, like that. If they're losing like 31-28 or like
that's
35,
fine. That's
31.
Okay. I can live with that.
Like if it's a high scoring game, he's scoring plenty of points, then whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I like to see what he does and how their offense is.
I agree.
I think Stefanski did a good job.
Mm-hmm.
But let's see what their offense is going to be. I really don't know.
I agree with that. I think if it's close games, he's not going to be on a leash. I mean, there is going to be the collar around this. He's going to probably have like a little shock collar, on him, but it's not going to get shocked at all. But they said if he puts up numbers, it's not that on him.
It's on him. Like if he plays well, they still lose.
Yeah,
some quarterbacks do all they can, they still lose games.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think their prize possession was this year, Dan? I mean, what's their biggest pickup this year for the Cleveland Browns, or re-signing, whatever you want to call it here?
I'm gonna say Judy.
Huge offensive side of the ball. Finally got a weapon.
And Devin Bush.
You like Devin Bush? I like that sign.
Or Hicks.
I think to me, I want to go with
all 3 of them are really good moves.
Yeah, I think the Judy pickup was. I think they overpaid for him a little bit, Dan. That contract that he paid for him.
I agree,
number.
but they exchanged a 5th and 6th round pick. The
You're
contract maybe not you don't like, but it's a 3-year, $58 million. I mean, I know it's a little pricey, but he's a good wide receiver. He needed a change of scenery.
He did. I mean, that 3 years, $53 million, Dan, that's a big price tag for a guy that we really haven't seen his ceiling yet, coming out of Alabama.
Yeah, I don't like the contract. I think he's got good talent, but they've been very inconsistent at the quarterback position in Denver.
That's true.
So, maybe he can get a rapport with Deshaun Watson. Maybe that's what they're trying to do there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a really good move. And you'll give up a 5th and 6th round pick.
Yeah, 5th and 6th round pick. You're basically looking at a positional player that's not going to see the field. Maybe a practice squad or a special teams player here. You didn't give up much. The only downfall to me, the only downfall to me is that big contract. I mean, you're looking at $17 million a year, basically a little bit over $17 million a year.
Obviously, it's a risk. It's like sometimes you're banking on his talent and his potential.
And you're putting it all on Deshaun Watson too. You're saying, hey, we went out and got you a number one wide receiver here.
Well,
Amari Cooper didn't stand out.
they
We got
better
you,
be
Jimmy.
in the off season and wherever they can throw it together, and work it out together, and get ready. So,
man, if I'm gonna pull a punch here, Dan. And I'm gonna have to say this one real quick. I'm gonna have to
Deshaun
say
Watson
this
should
real
have a camp or something. Have them wherever he is, and them all do workouts together.
quick. Here's the
Be a
deal, Dan.
leader.
Oh, I agree with that one. I agree. Just like we've seen like quarterbacks that go out to Arizona and throw the ball out there with his wide receivers, bring them in.
You have to do that.
You have to.
Do that
You have
right
to do
away.
that nowadays. You have to. I'm
Get
going to go
him
ahead and pull
more.
the punch here, Dan. And I'm going to say, if I'm the mayor of Cleveland, you better keep Deshaun Watson out of certain stores and places like that, and just make sure he's on the field because
no massage parlors, no nothing like that.
Yes.
You don't want to hear, oh, well, he did this, and be having a great season, get suspended the rest of the season or something.
And you know what the funny thing is, Dan? If he gets suspended, he's still going to be a top 5 quarterback pay-wise in the NFL. That's a crazy thing.
David Ardell says, if Burrows is healthy, I could see the Bengals give them raise a run for the division. It could be Pittsburgh. Who knows? But we'll talk about that at the end.
Yeah, we'll definitely hold that conversation.
It could be the Steelers. It could be the Browns. Who knows? I think the Steelers are the team that's going to challenge them.
Yep. Now, do you think Devontae Foreman's going to be celebrating that first back RB1 maybe? What do you think there for the Cleveland Browns?
I think so, because the Hines I think is kind of small.
He is. That's what I'm saying.
Foreman's more of a
more physical
back,
mm-hmm.
But they could use a better running back. But I don't know who else is there.
No, I don't. I think late round probably because they lost the fourth, and the fifth there. I think maybe third round. Your second and third. You're banking on a second and third draft.
Estimate late or something.
Estimate, I think, is going to be a 4th round pick, and that could be a solid big back there. A Jerome Bettis type back there, Dan. I think he could fight for a starting position there. You got a scat back like a Foreman or a Hines, of course, Dayton Hines.
Yeah,
and you bring in an Estimate there, the solid back, third down situational back who can catch out of the backfield too, run screen. So especially he's from Notre Dame, I got to give him credit for that.
Well, if they could improve their offense, the Browns,
I agree.
They'll be a formidable team to deal with. They could average 22, 23 points a game. If they could average more points, could score 20 or more a game, they could be a problem for some people, I think.
I agree.
But I don't know how Watson's going to play.
That's the key thing is the quarterback right there. If Deshaun Watson can play up to, I want to take it back to like the first years of Houston, Dan, where he shocked the world the way he played.
One year he was really good. You want to see that Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, I want to see that Deshaun Watson right there because if that can happen, to me, you went out and got Judy. Let's just say they go out and a Brian Thomas actually falls that way. A Keon Coleman, I don't think they're going to fall that far, but you go out and get a wide receiver like that. To punch him with Judy, you give him the weapons. It could be, sky's the limit with this team, honestly, right now, because the defense can win games for you right away.
Absolutely.
Yep. To me, the biggest possession, the re-signing to me was Darius Smith at linebacker. I love how this kid plays. He's a cheap linebacker, 11.5 million a year.
You want him on the other side of Garrett.
Exactly. Yep. And I love that pickup there because, we also talk about a bookend opposite, linebacker. You think about those two. You have your cornerstones.
Signed Bush and also Hicks.
Yeah, they're solid.
4 good linebackers.
Yeah, their linebacker core is going to be great. I mean, their defense, I'm not worried about the defense. To me, it's all on the offense. Like, this is just saying, this to me, Dan, I'm just looking forward to the season here where your defense comes out and get a 3 and out. You push the ball, you get field position. You're looking at the offense that now your turn. This is exactly what this is going to be this year.
It's going to be a tough division.
It definitely is. So. Well, let's move on to the last team here. Hey, listen, let's talk about this Baltimore Ravens team, Dan. I mean, 14-3, Dan. 14-3. Let's talk about this team, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, they had a good regular season.
Regular season, keyword.
Yeah, regular season. They flunked in the playoffs as usual. But Tyler Huntley, that's not a loss.
Yeah, not a big one. Clipboard guy.
Yep. No Dalvin Cook. There are 4 running backs that they might not have lose. Dalvin Cook, J.K. Dobbins, he's injury prone. Remember, you said Gus Edwards went to the Chargers, and Melvin Gordon.
Well, let's talk about the running backs.
They could draft a running back where they are at, but we'll talk about that. Odell Beckham Jr. He's probably not coming back.
Well, they have Derrick Henry.
They have. Well, we'll talk about. I'm talking about their losses.
Okay.
Devin Duvernay went to the Jags.
Right.
Laquan Treadwell, that's not really a loss in my opinion.
Okay.
Morgan Moses, they traded to the Jets.
Mm-hmm.
Their tackle.
Mm-hmm.
Josh Simpson, the guard, went to the Jets.
Mm-hmm.
Zeitler went to the Lions. Their center, I don't know if he played Mustafa, went to the Broncos.
Mm-hmm.
Jadavian Clyde, they lost. He's
That's
older.
not.
I don't know how much.
To me, he's overpaid, overhyped. Dan, honestly,
Their big loss is Patrick Queen, who's a
huge.
Steeler we just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Deshaun Phillips, Tyrus Bowser, Ronald Darby went to the Jaguars.
Mm-hmm.
Rocky Sin, the quarterback they drafted a couple of years ago, is a free agent.
Mm-hmm.
Geno Stone went to the Bengals, and Darryl Worley and their long snapper. Those are losses. Queen's probably their biggest loss.
I agree. I mean, losing the running backs, which I jumped ahead
And
there
Zeitler,
with Derrick
maybe.
Henry. Yeah, the running backs to me, Dan, they were a committee running back to me. They've always been a committee running back, So it's not going to be a loss of losing Gus Edwards maybe as your starter there a little bit, but to me,
they got Derrick Henry, like you said. So.
Yeah, they can go out and get a B back, a number 2 back here,
yes.
and just expel a Derrick Henry because we know Derrick. The only thing that scares me about this pickup here, Dan, a smart pickup. Of course, he wanted out of there. Not a big deal. $8 million for a running back, Dan. That's cheap. That's cheap. But the thing to me that scares me is Lamar Jackson doesn't push the ball downfield. He likes to either run himself or give it to his backs. Henry, when was the last time he really carried a load like what I think Baltimore is going to give him?
2 years ago, 3
2
seasons
years ago.
The problem is he's got a lot of wear and tear, a lot of carries under his belt.
That's what I mean. I mean, you're paying. I mean, his tread on a tire, Dan. He's been in the league 7 years now.
Yep.
But he's had a lot more wear and tear on his tires based on how the Titans used him, Dan. So I want to see what he has left in the tank. But $8 million, that's a solid pickup, Dan.
For $8 million, it's a no-brainer. It's cheap
definitely
deal. He definitely contribute, but like I said, I would draft a running back if I were them, maybe because they're out there at 30 something, 28 maybe,
28, 29,
27, so somewhere around there.
Yeah, right.
So they're that, or they can get a weapon, 30.
That's
but they also signed Aguilar.
Yeah, Nelson's over there. I mean, he says
good depth. I think
depth guy. Yeah, depth guy's key.
Josh Jones signed a free agent deal tackle.
Mm-hmm.
I think Van Noy's a good signing for them. 2 years, $9 million. It's a cheap deal. Justin Matabuke, I think is how you say it.
Oh, Matabuke.
Say his name. 4 year, $98 million. That's a big contract right there. He's a defensive lineman, so it's a good signing. Brent Urban, Malik Harrison, Arthur Mallet. Just a lot of it is depth signings. But I think for them, they need another weapon. They need another running back.
Well, let me ask you: Does Odell come back or not? I mean, he's not the 1A receiver. He's not even 1B. He's probably 1C, if that. Dan, is this a big loss if he doesn't re-sign with the Ravens? I don't think it is.
No,
I don't think it is.
No,
not at all.
It was if Odell Beckham never had those 2 major injuries. We're talking a different story.
Different story.
We would need a wide receiver.
And to me,
but I think they need a weapon.
I agree.
They have did they draft someone, Flowers?
Yeah, Zay Flowers from last year. Yeah, they got him.
They need like a physical, like a Brian Thomas Jr., a Keon Coleman, a physical receiver, Leggett.
I agree. I think you go physical here because you have Flowers, a high flyer, of course. I think you have your running game too. Let me ask you this real quick. Since we talked about Odell Beckham, let me move to the opposite side of the ball here. Losing Patrick Queen and Clowney. I mean, you got a defensive end and a linebacker.
I think Queen's a big loss. Clowney, I don't think it's a big loss. I think he can replace him.
I agree. With that.
You got a pass rusher at 30.
I agree with 100%.
Linebacker at 30.
I agree. I don't think it's going to be a huge loss with Clowney. I think he's one of those guys. To me, Dan, I was talking to a couple people and I said
he's half done.
Yeah, the play that made him was when he was in college. That quarterback, that running back hit when he got the ball, that made him. And he's never been the franchise defensive end player.
He's been injured. He's had some injuries
exactly.
too.
And he's been a journeyman too. If you think about it, he's moved from a couple teams here and there. He's been a journeyman.
Houston draft him.
Houston, and then he went to I think he went to the Browns for a little bit. Correct?
Yeah, he went to the Browns.
Mm-hmm. Now Baltimore, now Carolina there. And now you're in hell. I mean, hell, Carolina can use anybody. They have the money. They went out and got him. But I think that's a huge, loss there of the Queen. But Derrick Henry is probably going to be the offensive side of the ball coming into me. $8 million, that's a steal, Dan, of course. Do you think they're going to – I mean, I like what you said going wide receiver because you lost Duvernay.
I just don't see them having a lot of weapons besides Flowers.
I agree. I think you have to go
they have
wide
Andrews
receiver.
And Flowers.
And Mark Andrews coming off the injury. I mean, I know he came back.
He's coming off an injury.
He came back, Dan, but, the little hip drag rule, that's the new rule in the NFL based on his percentage there, how he got hurt. But I think coming off the injury, I think they have to go wide receiver, Dan. I think you have to here.
I was sort of a comment. I said they didn't use Gus Edwards a lot anyway. They always use Jackson.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson. One more comment. Davey R says Watson, Burrows, Lamar, and Russ. What's interesting? It's going to be an interesting division for sure.
It definitely is. I mean, before we get out here, Dan, I know we're going to talk about our expectations for how we see the seeding come up this year. But the one thing I want to ask you is this team, Baltimore Ravens here. Lamar Jackson's on another 3 or 4 year deal here. He signed that 5-year, lucrative contract deal here.
Yep.
He's going to be the starter from now until God, when he retires. We know that, Dan.
Yeah.
But Dan, with their backup situation here, what if Lamar goes down?
I don't know what's going to happen if Lamar
you got rid of your mirror, Tyron Huntley, your quarterback that can come in and give you a couple games, expel you a little bit. A mirror of the Lamar Jackson. But what do you think here? I mean, it's a little different.
I don't know.
You really don't.
If he goes down, I think they're in trouble. I don't know if they're not going to be as effective with Winston, maybe.
Because the reason why I say that,
good weapons.
The reason why I say that, Josh Johnson has been on the NFL roster on, I think it was like 9 teams so far in his career. Yep. He's your backup 1 year. I get it, $1.4 million. That's totally fine. But Dan, there's a reason why you played on like 13 different teams in your NFL career and never started one game as a starter. Truthfully, as your A1 day one starter. That's a little difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
But before we get out here, Dan, let's rank all these teams here. Of course, let's talk about the rankings last year. Of course, we had a great division, of course, in the AFC North. Let's rank them. Let's start with number 4. Who is your number 4 team at the bottom feeders of the AFC North next year?
Oh, man.
I think a lot of teams are going to flip to me, Dan. This is going to be a lot of flipping this year for me, based on right now what they picked up. Draft hasn't happened, of course, but
so it's a tough division.
It is. It really is. It really is, Dan.
I'm going to say the Browns.
Wow. Browns
I think they'll be above 500.
I think everybody's above 500 in this division. I'll put it that way. We'll start with that.
I don't trust Deshaun Watson.
That's the key. See, now you're trying to change my mind on this one, Dan. You really are.
I don't think they're going to be a bad football team. I think their defense will be really good.
Right.
But are they going to score enough points?
Okay.
I just don't know what to expect from Deshaun Watson. If he was proven, I would say the opposite.
Man, see, you put me in a position, Dan.
It's a tough division to predict.
I had the 2 teams that are 3 and 4. I had them flip-flop. You flip-flopped them for me. But, man, I see what you're exactly saying because I'm putting so much on Deshaun Watson's shoulders right now. I'm putting so much on him.
Well, a lot is. They need to have stability at that position all season. They got some stability last year with Flacco, even though it wasn't great. It was just average, stable. Not turning the ball over, just playing solid football. That's all they need.
True. Here's my thing. I'm going to flip it. You're going to go Cleveland Brown at 4. I'm going to go Cincinnati 4. The reason why I'm going to say this is 2 things, basically. Joe Burrow's health. Health is a different animal than playing a quarterback living up to your potential. You give Deshaun Watson a couple weapons, I think he can be good. He's always been good to keep it alive, scrambling plays, keep it alive. I give him that as an incentive too. The Browns defense is a lot better than the Bengals defense. The Bengals offense is better than the Cleveland Browns offense. But you look at that quarterback, have you done enough to keep Joe Burrows upright? I don't think they have, Dan. So I'm gonna go Cincinnati at 4. I do think they finished 9.
I was going to put them at 4, but
I'm gonna go 9. I'm gonna go 9 and 8. I have Cincinnati at 4. You have the Cleveland Browns at 4. What do you got Cleveland's record as? I got Cincinnati 9 and 8. I mean, we don't know the schedule, of course. We don't know the schedule, how it's going to pan out. Back-to-back games,
I think the Browns will be. I think. Man. Well, I think they'll be 10 and 7. I think they'll have one more win than 9-8.
So you got this division being stacked. I mean, 10-7 in fourth place.
It's such a tough division to predict.
I agree. I mean, I got them 9-8, and that's four. 9-8 can make you a playoff in another division out there. You know what I mean? So this, yeah, wow. All right, so you got Cincinnati at 3 then, right?
Yep.
Okay, all right. Why do we have? Why do you have them? I just gave you why I have Cincinnati below the Browns. Why do you have Cincinnati above the Browns?
So I think Burrow's going to have a lot better season this year. I think he's going to play more of the season.
Okay.
I just think they're going to have a better season than they did last. It's such a tough division, though. Yeah, I see them being better than they were last year.
I agree. I mean, I think Cleveland has a little bit more better running game. Honestly, I really do than losing Joe Mixon. I think that's a solid, big hit right there coming out of the backfield too. So, man, it's flip-flopping. I think both of these teams to me go 9-8. I got both 9-8, but I think I have the head-to-head or percentage rate going to Cleveland. It could be a wish-wash tie here, honestly, but I think Cleveland outrights them somehow in the standings to go third place in the division. I'm gonna go 9-8. Cincinnati 9-8. Cleveland.
Yep.
Wow. So what do you have Cincinnati's record at?
10-7. Same.
So both 10-7. Okay. So we're pretty much exactly the same. Just flip flop there. Okay. One game flip flopped. Okay. All right. So let's talk about second place here, Dan.
The Steelers.
Okay. Okay. I mean, you got them moving up that far, Dan. I mean, why do we have them at 2? I mean,
their quarterback is way better.
Great.
And I think their defense is going to be pretty good as well, and they're well coached.
I think so too. I mean, based on Russell Wilson,
it makes a difference having stability at that position.
I agree. I mean, I look at Russell Wilson's career, and I looked at this coaching out there. I think I love his coaches, and I think Bill Cowher. Going from Bill Cowher to what's his name, Mike Tomlin here. Same scenario. Plays for your players. Players play for him. I think he's in the right situation here. I think it's a good philosophy. You're playing basically for nothing. And to me, Dan, we always talk about one word: audition. You're playing up on a contract year. Russell Wilson's auditioning for his next contract, Dan.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
I agree. I like this team. I think Russell Wilson have a veteran quarterback coming in here, and you're talking to a George Pickens, a second-year player. I think he's going to put in his head like, hey, listen, man, you're one hell of a talent. You remind me of a Metcalf. You remind me of, all these wide receivers in the NFL that I've coached, I've played against. I think you're up to their standards. Let's get serious and play this game, because the defense is good on the side of the ball, getting Patrick Queen.
Yep.
I got the Steelers number 2 Dan as well. But what record do you have them? We got 10-7 Cincinnati.
11-6.
11-6. Wow, this division is stacked. Jeez. Oh man. Oh, God. I'm kind of drawn, Dan. Do I go at 10-7 or do I go at 11-6? I'm gonna go 10-7 right now, Dan, because of the fact I think you're going to split with a couple of these teams here. You're probably going to split with Cleveland. You're probably going to split with Baltimore. You might even split with them here, of course. And the key thing is I think the Cowboys are going to beat the Steelers this year because we play them this year too, so that's a loss for them as well. Well, not really, but we'll talk about it another day. I'm gonna go 10-7 here, Pittsburgh, Dan. I got them second place, 10-7.
Yeah, I'm gonna say 11-6.
11-6. Okay, 10-7 and 11-6 for number 2 here. Okay, let's talk about the Ravens here, Dan. Before we get out of here, 13-4 last year. Do they surpass 13-4, or are they level-headed with 13-4 from last year?
No, I don't think they surpassed 13.
You think they get 13?
Maybe.
Okay. Okay. Oh man, I'm going to go a little bit downfall here. I'm going to go 12-4 this year. I think a lot of teams. I don't call it a sophomore slump, Dan, or a sophomore jinx, because he's been in the league for years now. But I think a lot of. Yeah, I'm probably going to go 12-5 here, because of the fact that a lot of teams have it's a blueprint out there. If you can put pressure on that secondary level, take away the wide receivers, have 3 good linebackers, which Pittsburgh has in Queen now. The Cleveland defense can play, and you're playing in this division here. It's a solid defensive division. I think you can contain them. I think you can beat them. So I'm going to go a little bit down, regressing here. I'm going to go 12-5 for the Ravens. But I want to ask you one thing here real quick. As Dave said here, Dan, I want to talk about this real quick before we get out of here. Watson, Burrows, Lamar, and Russ. This interesting division this year is going to be. Dan, rate these quarterbacks really quick. Health-wise, 100% healthy with the teams are on. Who is your top 1 through 4 quarterback in this division?
Russell Wilson.
Okay, I agree. I got
Oh,
Russell
no, wait,
Wilson.
wait, wait.
I got Russell 1. I got Russell 1.
Well, you're talking about health-wise.
If they're 100% healthy with what they have on the
If they're
roster right now.
100% healthy, I'm going to say Burrows.
Burrow? Okay. Well, based on what they have on their team, no offensive line there. So put that into
But they
consideration
still
too.
have Chase and Higgins.
That's if Higgins is going to play or sit out this year too, with no running back.
I think Burrows is better than Russell Wilson healthy.
Okay.
Russell Wilson 2, Lamar 3, and Watson 4.
No love for Watson, huh?
No.
Me
The
either.
reason Lamar is a great weapon, but a true quarterback is not a true pocket throwing quarterback. Neither is Russell Wilson, but I think Wilson and Burrows and Wilson are more talented throwing the ball by far than Lamar is.
Isn't that funny how we say we have the third-rated quarterback in his own division winning the MVP last year in Lamar Jackson? We have
I do think he's the MVP of his team. He's obviously an MVP caliber type player.
Sure.
But there's a player for that for every team.
Agree. And I think it was Eddie Prather on a couple
Just like
shows back.
The Chiefs, the MVP, obviously the Chiefs is Mahomes. Of course.
And I think the key, one of our viewers, Eddie Prather, said he's the best running back on his team, Lamar Jackson.
I just don't think he's a true traditional quarterback. And accuracy-wise, throwing-wise, Burrows and Wilson are just better than he is. That's all. They're not a better runner than he is at all.
Agree. And I think, how the league has progressed, Dan. We see a guy coming out in the draft this year, Jaden Daniels, arguably one of the fastest quarterbacks, coming out of the college, of course.
But he's got other skills too. He's got a good arm. He's accurate.
He looks at them to throw the ball downfield first, which is going to be like a Lamar Jackson 2.0 upgrade is what it's going to be.
Yeah, I think he has more throwing talent than Lamar does.
I agree 100%. Now, Dan, I know we, coming up in the draft here in a little bit over a month, not even over a month, coming up pretty soon.
Yep.
What team, what division do you want to? We got to go NFC here. Where are we going to go next week for the NFC?
Well, let's see. We did the NFC West.
We already did them.
Did the NFC South.
Yes.
We did the NFC North.
Yes, we did.
NFC East, I guess, unless you want to do our division last.
I think we do that last, Dan, because we got a lot to say about that division, don't we?
That would have to be AFC then.
Let's go AFC. I'm glad you said that because you took the words right out of my mouth because I think we have a lot to say on the NFC East when we talk about that.
Yep.
So next week, AFC, what's the last division we have here, Dan?
Let's see. We did the AFC West.
We got the West.
We did the South.
Got the South.
We did the East.
We actually do the NFC. We have to do the NFC.
Well, NFC East then.
So I'm glad we got our last division.
AFC East. I apologize.
AFC East. What team are you willing to talk about? What's your first team going to talk about there, Dan?
The Jets.
The Jets. The Jets, huh?
Patriots or the Jets, one or the other.
Oh, wow, I can't wait to talk about that.
Jets have way more potential than the Patriots do, though.
Oh, they do. I mean, the key
Jets
thing
have
is
a top 5, top 3 defense.
A lot of questions coming into that season. Aaron Rodgers, health-wise, what they've given up this year, what they received. Losing a couple acquisitions there to the Philadelphia Eagles.
They could be a team that wins the division if Rodgers stays healthy all year.
Plus with Buffalo Bills giving up everything on their system here. Diggs gone.
Buffalo Bills could fall for a good amount, for all I know. Like they lost a lot of people.
Yeah, I think to me, Dan, looking at next week, I think the big thing for me is going to be the Ravens, what they do in the draft. I think that's their biggest talk, where they sit for a quarterback-wise. Buffalo is like, okay, have they just said, you know what, the Jets are superior. The Dolphins, we can't really catch right now. They're superior too. Do we rebuild? Do we build around what we have? The Dolphins, what are we? What can we be? The Jets, ceiling's the limit for this team, honestly.
Maybe offensive line is probably something they need to improve upon.
I think so too. I think
defense is fine.
I agree. I think they're solid on defense. I love their defense. Rodgers coming back, he can put a spark in that offense. He can build any offense. So I think the key position coming off the ACL, of course, is keeping them upright, which you have to do. Played 3 last year, season went downhill, and definitely talk about that one. Eileen says they really didn't use. Oh, I'm sorry, I already read that one. Damn, I'm late on that one. All right, Dan. Before we get out, how about we do some couple sponsors really quick before we get out here? Can you tell me about this one here?
Monkey Cold Coffee, evolution of flavor infused coffee. Use the promo code OOTB Sports at the checkout for 10% off your order at monkeycoldcoffee.com. It's OOTBS Sports. Get 10% off your order. They have a newest flavor, honey agave. And also they have comes with a barrel aged honey if you want to get that put in some of your coffee. Come out new flavors every day. Join the evolution of flavor infused coffee at monkeycoldcoffee.com and use the promo code OOTB Sports at the checkout to get 10% off your order. Get your Monkey Cold coffee today.
Also, if you need legal advice and you live in the tri-state area here, either Delaware, Pennsylvania, or New Jersey, please give my man a call. 1-800-HURT-123, Attorney Big Al, Mr. Jason Fine himself. Motor vehicle accidents, slip and fall, workman's comp, personal injury claims. He has you covered. 3 convenient locations throughout Pennsylvania and New Jersey. In New Jersey, it's Cherry Hill, 3 Greensburg Lane. Of course, in the city of brotherly love. If you're out there going to WrestleMania this week, please be careful out there. If you fall, trip, whatever, you get stone cold stunned by someone or you get Roman Reigns spear, give Jason a call, 1-800-HURT-123, 1628 JFK Boulevard, Suite 2120. If you're in my neck of the woods, you're a Pittsburgh fan up there, you're going to a game, whatever, you get hit by a car, give him a call, 500 Grand Street, Suite 2900. Make sure you mention Out of the Box Sports Entertainment. God promise you, no recovery, no fee. You take your case, not 50, not 45, not 40, not even 35. Mention Out of the Box Sports Entertainment, OOTBS, on your live operator. You might even get me on the phone there. Talk to me about it. Let me know. We'll give you a 33 1/3% guaranteed approval rate there. No recovery, no fee. Make sure you call 1-800-HURT-123 and let them know that Out of the Box Sports Entertainment, the NFL Weekly, told you to call. So, Dan, NFC East next week. We are going to conclude our all division AFC. That's right, Dan. I'm so hyped to talk. Oh, there I am. So I hit the wrong button there, Dan. I'm so hyped. I'm so hyped about to talk about the NFC East, Dan. I can't wait. But Dan, what's your plans for tonight, man? I know it's Thursday night here. I'm kind of pissed off right now because my Indiana State Hoosiers are the Sycamores are losing by 5 to Seton Hall. I'm kind of a little pissed off about that right now, Dan.
Watch some baseball, maybe baseball. Watch some football. Not football.
Hockey.
Yeah, that would be the weekend with the USFL or whatever.
Dan, real quick, let me ask, are you into the USFL and the XFL comp? Are you into that or no?
I thought some of the games were pretty good this past weekend.
Isn't it kind of crazy when you talk about a highlight being a kicker?
Yeah, but
wow.
Yeah, I did, but I thought some of the games were solid. I thought, and they play in their home cities now.
Yeah, I'm kind of pissed off that Pittsburgh doesn't have a team right now, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I think, like I said, it's good for players to play, and then some of them will go to the NFL when the season's over.
Yeah, to me, it's like a farm squad. It's like another college portal here that you get game film. Of course, Dallas Cowboys, for example, we picked up our little scat back. Of course, we picked
up in between college and the NFL.
Exactly. I tried getting into it. Even Evan, that does a show with you, Big Blue Power Hour. He told me.
I forgot about it last week, but I don't mind it.
Yeah, I watched it. I was like, I'm not really into it, but then I got into it, and I was watching the Michigan game there, and I was like, wow, these dudes really play pretty physical here, so I kind of like it, A little bit different rules, though, Dan. A little bit different rules to me, though.
The rules are a little different, but like I said, I thought they did well last year. We'll see how they do this season.
Agree. Well, guys, hey, listen, we're going to get out of here. Tomorrow night, please stay tuned. Of course, we have the Atomic Drop podcast coming on, WrestleMania pre-talk prediction show. 10:30 tomorrow night, so make sure you stay tuned to that. That's going to be on tomorrow night as well. Ken Fry, Eddie Prather's going to be on that show too, so make sure you check that out tomorrow night, 10:30 p.m. That'll be on live. And Dan, when are you going to be on again, my brother?
I'm going to shoot for Tuesday.
And what show would that be?
Big Blue Power Hour.
Big Blue Power Hour. So make sure you check out that if you're a Giants fan. He's going to get you ready for the draft coming up in a couple weeks here. We're going to be talking about that. Of course, next week.
It's getting closer.
It definitely is. And also, we will be doing a live draft on Thursday night, round number 1, with all predictions as we stream it. We're going to be talking about the live draft, of course. So make sure whatever team you root for, make sure you tune into that one. Let us know what your team's going to do. Unless you're the Cleveland Browns, you don't have a first-round pick, but we expect you to be in there anyway, So make sure you tune into that one, of course. And I can't wait for the draft, Dan. A lot of things going on with that draft there. And Eddie, there's Eddie right there. You guys can check him out tomorrow night. He'll be hopping on there. The Atomic Drop podcast. He says, Eddie, Paul, there we go. Thanks for tuning in. So, Dan, you ready to get out of here? Because I got to go root for some Sycamore teams here to win this game tonight, because my Indiana Hoosiers didn't make it, but at least I got my Sycamores playing. They're down 5 right now, so got to get them to win. You ready to get out of here, brother?
Yep.
All right, myself, that is Dan Connor right there. This is the NFL Weekly Football Talk. We'll be back next week to talk about the AFC East next week. Until then, Stay safe and enjoy your weekend, everybody.
Take care, everybody.